All right, everyone, we're going to start in just about 30 seconds, so please find a seat. Great to have you all here this afternoon. Can I hold? Well. Can you please raise your hand if you can hear me in the back, Dan? All right, thank you. Great. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our third annual Perspectives on Resilience event. My name is Sharon Collins, and I'm director of the Arizona Institute for Resilience, also known as AIR. And it's my great honor and privilege to welcome all of you here today, those participating here in person and those that are joining us online. I'm really excited about today. We've been planning this for several months, and it's a thrill to be here with you. As director of AIR, I'm committed to fostering a culture and to creating spaces. Can you advance my slide? There we go. This is not working. That was 2 slides. Nope, back the other way. Is that the second slide? Okay. I'm committed to fostering a culture and to creating spaces where everyone feels welcome and is able to bring their whole selves to this place and to the work that we do together. So it is in this spirit of connection and collaboration that we gather here today to listen, learn, and share our perspectives on resilience. The Arizona Institute for Resilience was conceived in 2020, and I joined as the first permanent director in August of 2022. AIR is intended to serve as a convener across the University of Arizona campus and beyond, a supporter of interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary research activities, partnerships, innovation, and education, and to foster synergies among students and researchers across disciplines, which, as you know, are typically siloed in universities. The goal of AIR is to be a catalyst for developing solutions that will serve our local to global communities to better withstand and adapt to all types of systemic shocks, including those stemming from climate, ecosystems, health, economic, social, and cultural phenomena. AIR is meant to explore and develop resilient solutions with campus and community partners. AIR, as part of the University of Arizona, sits on the ancestral homelands of the Thana'atham Nation and the Pascua Yaqui tribe. As Arizona's land-grant university and a Hispanic-serving institution, the university has made a commitment to promote success for all students, faculty, and staff. This commitment is mirrored in AIR programs that focus on creating authentic relationships and engagement while striving to build healthy, thriving, and resilient communities. Our focus in AIR is on resilience, which we describe as the capacity to respond to environmental change in innovative ways by adapting toward more sustainable and equitable outcomes. In the fall of 2022, our AIR community came together to create a collective vision that would guide our activities and set our priorities for the next 3 years. Out of that process, we developed our vision, which is a vibrant and sustainable Earth where communities are resilient to environmental change, and our mission to develop and apply diverse knowledges in creating solutions to environmental change through interdisciplinary research, community relationships, and experiential learning. In that process, we identified 6 themes that encompass all of the work that we do across our 15 different centers and programs in AIR. These themes are arid lands, climate, communities, energy, environment, and water. In all of our work, we engage across boundaries to co-design solutions for environmental and societal resilience. And now to our purpose for today. This is our 3rd annual Perspectives on Resilience event. The idea for this event emerged from a conversation that I had with a faculty member shortly after I arrived here in August of 2022. And this faculty member shared with me that they wanted to learn more about and connect with others across campus whose work would complement their own, but they didn't know how they could do that in the midst of the already full days that they spent doing research, teaching, and service. This event was born out of that longing for us to find people across this large and diverse campus to collaborate with and learn from. So the purpose of today's event is celebration, motivation, and inspiration. We're here to celebrate the innovative and imaginative work of people from many disciplines who are embracing and exploring concepts of resilience in their research, education, and community engagement activities. We're here to be motivated by the thoughtful and creative work of our colleagues to explore new ways of knowing and connecting to the work of people across our campus and community. And we're here for inspiration, to be open to ways in which the experiences that we have today may transform our thinking, that may lead to new forms of action in the world. Our agenda for today is fast-paced and interactive. We have 2 formal breaks in the agenda, but please feel free to take a break whenever you need it and then rejoin the conversation. You'll see on your tables 2 QR codes. One of those will lead you to the agenda for today. We'll start with some welcoming remarks and then feature original documentary films, an interactive panel discussion, 2 sessions of short talks from speakers who've been asked to share their perspectives on resilience. We'll have some networking activities to facilitate collaborative conversations, particularly focused on generating ideas for responding to RII's Big Idea Challenge. And throughout today, I encourage you to start a conversation with someone you've never met, perhaps based on an observation inspired by one of our presenters. In the later part of the afternoon, we'll have an update on the creative work of our annual resilience-themed team, who are focused on building hydro-local community through music, art, and watershed science. And we'll wrap up with an announcement of next year's funding opportunity for you all to consider. We'll end the day with a reception out in our beautiful courtyard, where you'll be able to continue conversation about today's activities while enjoying good food and live music from Kiru. So let's go. I'd like to welcome Dr. Tomás Diaz de la Rubia, our new Senior Vice President for Research, Innovation, and Impact here at the University of Arizona. Thank you so much for being here, Thomas.
Well, wow, that's quite an introduction there. Thank you, Sharon. This is really a noble mission that you all have here at the Institute. Really, really important. I'm delighted to be here this afternoon. It's been 2 months since I got here to the University of Arizona, and I've been listening and learning every single day. And every day, I just get home more enthusiastic than the day before. Everything that I'm hearing, that I'm learning here at the university is just amazing. I was in this building for the first time last Saturday for the Heat Resilience event. That was just awesome. You're hosting this event today on resiliency overall at the Institute with all the centers and everybody here. This is one of the grand challenges that we face as a planet in the 21st century. It is very obvious here in Arizona, but it's a challenge globally, worldwide, that we are not going to be able to turn our backs on. It requires the transdisciplinary convergence of all academic disciplines across the university to be able to generate holistic solutions that really have an impact on the future, that have an impact on our communities, on our region, on our nation, on the planet, on society overall. This is a very difficult problem. It's a wicked problem. We see the impacts of climate change all around us. We see it on water, we see it on drought, we see it on floods, we see it on the frequency and severity of extreme weather events. I came from the state of Oklahoma. Let me tell you, crazy. Droughts everywhere. A friend of mine, colleague of mine, friend of mine, became a good friend. He's a congressman from Oklahoma. His name is Frank Lucas. He was the chairman of the House Science Committee. He's a farmer, not a farmer, sorry, he's a rancher. And he's a Republican. And I asked him, I said, Congressman, what do you think about climate change? And he said, look, if anybody tells you that climate change isn't real, have them come and spend some time at my ranch. The impact of drought, on the ability to ranch is being incredible. And then you have, hurricanes, you have tornadoes, and you have hail and ice storms in October, and all kinds of severe weather events that are causing havoc all around the planet. And so what you're doing here is important. As I said, it's novel, it matters, and it makes a huge difference to future generations. I have kids, many of you I'm sure have kids. We all want to leave a better planet behind for them. Please continue doing the work that you're doing. Respond to the Big Idea Challenge. That's our challenge to you, to come together across boundaries in academia, to be more than the sum of the parts. I'm excited about what I'm hearing already about the potential response to that opportunity. I'm actually worried that we're not going to have enough money to provide to all the great projects that are going to come out. You never know how these things are going to be responded to. And you know what? If there's a lot of projects that we should be funding, we'll figure out how to do it. So please come together around these big, important problems. I really applaud what you're doing here at the Institute and all the centers within the Institute. What a great initiative. Not very many universities can say that they are coming together around an entity like this to really talk across the entire campus about how do we tackle these problems. So congratulations, Sharon, on everything that you're doing, and I look forward to your proposals to the Big Idea Challenge, and I look forward to hearing more about the outcomes of this dialogue here today. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. It's really an honor to have you here. Next, I'd like to introduce Michael Mulcahy, who will introduce his documentary film. Michael.
Hello, folks. I'm very glad to be here this afternoon with you all for some celebration, motivation, and inspiration. I'd like to just start by thanking a few people. I'd like to thank Sharon Collinge, Liz Pedersen, Olivia Miltner, and Shelley Litton from AIR. They've been partners in this project, Making Arizona, which is a impact producing campaign. I'd also like to thank Ellen McMahon from the CFA, who has been just a real champion of getting research in the arts connected. I'd like to thank a couple of U of A researchers too, who have been important consultants to this project, Dr. Greg Garfin, Dr. Mark Kerr, and Dr. Heidi Brown. So let me turn around. Could you go to the next slide? Oh, darn, sorry. Okay, so I'm going to speak very, very briefly. The video we're going to screen is about 9.5 minutes long. It's a part of what is called Making Arizona, which is, as I mentioned, a public impact campaign. And the intended impact is to motivate Arizonans to become educated and to move past climate despair to take climate action. So it's got a few components to it. One is a website hosted on AIR that has educational materials. The second have been several public events and hopefully more to come. And then the third have been video profiles of people working in some ways in relationship to how climate change has affected Arizona and specifically Southern Arizona. So this first video is the first video in the series, and it is 9 minutes long. The second video that is currently in pre-production right now is about extreme heat. So let me just get out of the way and we can watch the video, and then if there's any questions, I think there might be 1 minute to answer them.
You can, yep, you can go for that one if you want. Yep, push up. Remember how to get under it? There you go. Thank you, Lydia. Just trying to catch it for you. All right. Awesome job. All right. When we go out and we harvest a saguaro fruit, it's a team effort. So you have one person that's actually picking the saguaro fruit. You have another person that's collecting it in the bucket. Hit this one, and then I can help you. You also have another person that's a spotter that's going ahead and figuring out the next saguaro to pick from. That's how we are resilient, is being with each other and being together, and cooperation is how we make it through the world. That's how we are successful. Skugdash Anyap Jiggy Jasau Ramon Sabran. Shut walk. Amachit. Good day. My name is Jasau Ramon Sabran, and I come from the Sanavir district on the Thanatam Nation. We are currently in the Santa Cruz River Basin within the Sanavir district boundary. The name in O'odham for Sanavir is Walk, which means where the water goes in. And that was in reference to the aquifers that help feed the Santa Cruz River at one point in time. Walk O'odham have been farmers for time immemorial. And the Santa Cruz River was our main water source. We would at times farm almost year round because we had the Santa Cruz River. Everything was really centered around the Santa Cruz River for us in Sanavir. Women would go down with their pottery and fill up at the river. Children would go and play in the river, wash clothes down at the river. Even my great-great-grandfather and great-grandfather utilized and had canals that came from the Santa Cruz into their farm field. I loved hearing these stories growing up from my grandma Lena, talking about what it once looked like in Sanavir. I found this photo of when she was a little girl, and the photo was taken where I'm standing right now. There was this beautiful farmhouse that was standing here at one point in time, and it belonged to my great-grandfather, Frank Rios. He farmed this land. There's pictures of him out in the farm fields talking to individuals that are O'odham and non-O'odham. He's sharing his knowledge. It's very much part of our Himatha, sharing the knowledge and passing it on from generation to generation. Our creator always told us, only take what you need, because there are others in terms of plants and animals, insects, again, just others that need this water source as well. That was always our mindset with water, with, picking the saguaro fruit, with picking, cholla buds, prickly pear, anything. And we, for time memorial, were able to maintain the water source in the Santa Cruz River. And then you have others that come into your ancestral land where you've lived, and they don't have that same mindset. They were not taught the same way. And so they just take, and take. And then we began to notice the flow of the Santa Cruz River started to change. It decreased. That was because you had the city of Tucson growing. You had non-O'odham farmers living close proximity, and a Sarco mine. They came in the 50s, and same thing. They started to pump and take to the point where there was no more Santa Cruz River. There was no longer an Adi Acamel, which is what we called the Santa Cruz River. It took away our livelihood. Farming was just something of the past. The elders in Sanavir didn't want this to continue on like this. There was just this sadness, of not being able to see our farm fields, growing, see the lush green. And so they got together and decided to hold those accountable that depleted the Santa Cruz River. And it took some time. It was a lot of different entities and folks that had interest in this. The Thanatam Nation actually represented the Sanavir district in a lawsuit named the Southern Arizona Water Rights Settlement Act of 1982, or in short, SWARSA, was able to bring the Central Arizona Project to Tucson. It's a blessing to see water flowing again in the Santa Cruz. It means a lot to us as O'odham, because we can now talk about water in a present tense versus before it was always talked about, in the past. But it took 19 years from 1982 into the 2000s before we actually saw the water, because then you had to build the pipeline. You had to find a way for a route to be able to build all of that to then come to Sanavir. Also to rebuild our farmlands, because when we weren't farming, it left our land in bad shape. And so the elders and others that attended those meetings at our rock house said, okay, we're on the same page, let's do something. And so from that plan, thus the creation of the co-op farm. This wasn't something that happened overnight. You had individuals that were dedicated to making sure artisanal ecological knowledge continued, making sure that farming was, brought back again. I'm very proud of the co-op farm because of what my community did, how they came together, restored the land, cared for it, brought it back to life to what you see here today. So Himathug translates to our way of life. But if you break the word down and you have the first part, him translates to your behavior, how you act, how you present yourself, how you treat other people. And then Dag, D-A-G, derives from Ibathug, which means your heart. So your spirit, your love, your energy. And so you put all that together and you're looking at how you fit into that world, how you fit into your community, your family. The decisions you're going to make are going to affect your family, your community. And then also thinking bigger picture, cooperation, relationality, the connectedness, the community, that all comes together, and that's how we have survived.
Questions. The thing I'd like to say is that in terms of why we're here, celebrate, motivate, inspire. I haven't watched this video in a couple months, but every time I do, I'm reminded of all of the work that Dr. Ramon Cabron is talking about, and how 20 to 30 years of work by the Tohono Nation to redress climate change. It certainly didn't happen overnight, and I'm not particularly feeling very motivated right now, but listening to this, watching this again, I'm able to recapture some of that. So thank you very much.
Michael, before you sit down, can you just give us a quick preview of what your next film? You said heat, it's about extreme heat. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Thank you. Yeah, that was just beautiful. Thank you so much, Michael, for sharing that with us. So our work in AIR is closely tied to individuals and organizations in our community. And we have a wonderful example of a community organization here today focused on community conservation throughout the Southwest region. So please join me in welcoming Luke Cole from the Sonoran Institute here in Tucson and students Nick Richards and Steph Weineck. So Luke is going to start with a presentation and then we'll have an interactive panel here. I'll start with a few questions and then we welcome your questions and comments from the audience. Thank you, Luke. You can stand here and you can advance slides right there. Yes.
Excellent. And again, thank you very much for this opportunity and for this invitation to talk about some of the work that Sonoran Institute has been doing over the last 5 years to address trash in the Santa Cruz River. And when I say Sonoran Institute is doing this, Sonoran Institute was trying to do this for a while until AIR came along and we found the amazing resource of the student body here at the university through the Earth Grant and RISE programs. So just as a bit of background, I'm Luke Cole. I direct Sonoran Institute's Santa Cruz River program. We are a small nonprofit based here in Tucson, and we do work all throughout the entirety of the Colorado River Basin. So we have about 15 staff in the US and about 35 staff in Mexico, where as a binational organization, we work with partners, given how small we are, to accomplish big things. So what's on the screen right now is the vision for our Santa Cruz River program. Really, it's our vision for the Santa Cruz River, for it to be, again, and to continue to be someday a living, flowing river that's the foundation of community health and prosperity. That was what Giselle talked about in that beautiful film that we just watched. And the work that we do aims to accomplish that. We included centrally in our partnerships are the Tohono Nation and the Pascua Yaqui, as well as all those in this area, from this area, who seek to benefit and learn from the Southwest. So just to sort of, let's set the table a little bit where we are, because a lot of people are unfamiliar with this watershed. Concept of a watershed being within the delineated area here. In theory, any drop of water that falls within the white portion of the river here, of the watershed, I mean, will make its way to the river. The Santa Cruz River is a tributary of the Colorado River. It could, if we got big enough and persistent enough storms, connect up to the Gila River, to the Salt River, and then to the Colorado River. What you see here on the screen is sort of a cartoon of how the Santa Cruz River should move or has moved. It starts in Arizona in the San Rafael Valley. It flows southward into Mexico, where the elevation table kind of bends westward and then northward, and it crosses the US-Mexico border again. It's the only river in the country to do that, by the way. Then its flow path goes south to north through Nogales and Green Valley and Sahuarita, Tucson, Marana, up into Pinal County. The stretches of the river that have this sort of darker shading of blue, thicker blue on here, are where there are now perennial flows of Santa Cruz River water. It's like 40 plus miles that this river is flowing with really clean water, really beautiful water, that's a result of wastewater treatment plants. These wastewater treatment plants, now 3 of them, the Nogales International Treatment Plant, to the south, the Nogales International Wastewater Treatment Plant, and then up here in Pima County, we have the Agua Nueva and Tres Rios treatment plants. They treat all of the wastewater from ambos Nogales, so Nogales, Sonora, Nogales, Arizona, and then all the way up, including greater Metro Tucson. It's amazing. It's like $2 billion worth of investments, but the river is loaded with trash. We have made all of this investment to get super, super clean water flowing in the Santa Cruz River again, only like within the last 10 to 15 years. It's amazing how ecologically short of a time frame that is. And the response that we've seen, both from the environment and from people, is profound. but trash. To bring somebody in from out of town and say, look at this amazing river, and it's full of tires and Twix wrappers and specific styrofoam cups, things like that, it really makes the story that I was just so excitedly telling you hard to tell. So we started doing some research on how we might be able to address trash in the river. When we got connected with Earth Grant and then with the RISE programs through AIR, that's when this study of trash really started to kick in. So in 2021, we had our first Earth Grant intern who basically started the effort to catalog trash in the river. I can say there's a problem, but I'm also a scientist, and I know that I need data to back that up. I need defensible statistical data to back that up. So what I designed was a very straightforward field campaign where students from the university who are either already familiar with fieldwork or interested in fieldwork have the opportunity to go out in the field, do some very legitimate scientific research, and make a change with the findings of those data here in the community. Where am I pointing? Uh-oh. I'm going to push it one more time. Would you mind advancing for me? There we go. So this is a little bit telling the story again. This is in part what Giselle was referring to. This is what the river looks like now, and this is really what most of the river corridor used to look like. So these three areas here constitute some of the 40 plus flowing reaches of the Santa Cruz River. If you haven't been, please make a point to go. It's a fascinating, beautiful, beautiful place. And the work that these students have done has already started to yield significant dividends. So some of the data that we collected identified that the majority of the trash in the river, like 60+% of the trash in the river, floats. It's not heavy, sinky things like chassis from cars. It's styrofoam and food grade plastic and things like that. So Sonoran Institute this past summer down in Santa Cruz County installed the first ever trash trap in the state of Arizona. And what I want you to do now is you've all put your phones away very diligently. Please take your phones out and snap a picture of this QR code. It's going to take you to Sonoran Institute's Instagram page for a silent video, but it shows this trash trap in action. The way that it works is it sits there patiently on the, and hey, if you want to like it, go for it. It sits there patiently waiting for flood waters to come, and when they do, it scoops up all of that trash and it holds it in place, preventing it from making its way farther downstream. And we could not have made an investment like this had it not been for the data collected specifically by these two and the 8 other Earth Grant and RISE interns who have worked on this project. So sort of in general, how the river is doing is mostly what I'm tasked with figuring out in my very small team of two additional people. We catalog the state of the river. We have started hosting events like trash cleanups that bring as few as 70 people and as many as 350 people out to the river at a given time to get everybody out there. Our goal is always, let's get 2,000 pounds of trash out in 2 hours. And we exceed that every single time because the community cares about this river. One of the best things, maybe the only good thing to come out of COVID, was that people got a real sense of volunteerism. How can I go outside and socialize and do something to improve where I live? Time is short, right? Let's make a difference where we can. And the call to start getting out there and cleaning up the river has been answered by the University of Arizona, certainly, but also by Greater Tucson. And typically what we have is partnership with other NGOs in the area, with the university, but then we're bringing out food trucks and DJs and making it like a community fun event rather than like, hey, it's Saturday morning, you definitely feel horrible, come on out to the river and like sweat it out and pull some trash out, or at least gonna have some burritos and music while you're in that space. So like I said, we have had 10 AIR based students that have been helping us since 2021. Within here, we have students who have now secured graduate degrees, students who are in graduate degree programs right now. Some are working for the federal government. And it's pure potential. It's pure opportunity. And it's, like I said, it's making a difference here at home. That's what I tell every Earth Grant or AIR intern when we have our very first meeting is that you really do have the potential here to make a change in Tucson. And it's really bearing fruit in that way. So just here in 2023 alone, this was 533 people were attended Sonoran Institute related cleanup events, pulling out 14.5 tons of trash. In 2024, for the 4 cleanups that Sonoran Institute did, so taking out other partners' cleanups, we pulled out 10 tons of trash, and we had about 1,000 people turning out as well. So like it's happening. And Sonoran Institute, Tucson Clean and Beautiful, other partners throughout the area are doing these cleanups on the regular. So please do make a point to check those out. And we track the condition of the Santa Cruz River year after year in what we call our Living River magazine. Here we showcase data that are collected, like the trash study, but also a bunch of other indicators related to the condition of the Santa Cruz River. Like I said, the water in the Santa Cruz River was upgraded. These wastewater treatment plants were only upgraded 10 or 15 years ago. And we try to go year after year after year to analyze the same types of data so that we can produce a really useful trend assessment of the condition of the Santa Cruz River, how people are using it, how fish and endangered species and jaguar are responding to the river, as well as some of the problems that are blights like trash and like E. coli. We're not putting our heads in the sand and pretending that everything's great, but we're making a difference where we can to improve those conditions that are seemingly beyond our control because we lack data on them. We also provide an opportunity to learn more about the Santa Cruz River every year through our Santa Cruz River Research Days. Steph has presented at this. Steph presented at this last year in Spanish because it's a bilingual available symposium. And it's a really great opportunity for students who are doing anything even remotely related to the Santa Cruz River to come out and present to this or at least learn about what the Santa Cruz River is doing. And like it says up here, we're happening this year on April 29th and 30th. We also do programs to connect people to the river in the arts. So in just 2 weekends from now, we are hosting our first ever drawing workshop with a local artist and ecologist, Maria Johnson. Maria is going to be providing all the materials for anybody who wants to come out, well, up to 35 people who want to come out to this event that's going to be happening up at Crossroads at Silver Rail Park on the north side of the city. It's going to be beautiful. We're going to have lots of coffee and snacks and treats and things like that, and we'll be giving you a tour of the river. So if anybody's interested, please do make a point to check that out. And if you're interested, I will be around for the rest of the day. Happy to answer questions during the panel. I hope I didn't go too long. But again, thanks to what AIR is providing to this community, not just through Sonoran Institute, but to a much, much larger extent. It is making a difference, and I have nothing but gratitude for the folks in this room. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Luke and Steph and Nick. It's great to have you here. If you could quickly introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about how you got interested in the Santa Cruz River.
So I'm Nick or Nicole. I study natural resources as well as entomology, which is the science of insects and arthropods generally. And I knew a bit about the Santa Cruz River, but I did not live very close to it. I lived closer kind of to the Sabino Canyon. I got really into hiking, especially kind of when COVID hit. It was like one of the only things to do that didn't, make you want to slam your head into a wall all the time. But basically, my freshman year of college, I was coming back to like my second semester. I had just recovered from like a pretty severe injury that had kind of kicked me out for like the whole first semester basically. And I was just checking out like a career fair that was actually here at ENR2 just to see like what organizations there were. I wanted to learn way more about like the Forest Service. And both Steph and Luke were at a table for the Sonoran Institute, who I had never heard of. And they were giving me the spiel about kind of their work and the Santa Cruz. And I just got really interested in working with Luke and with Sonoran Institute because, as you can see, Luke is a very passionate person. And that day when I was like talking to people working in all sorts of things for the environment and for conservation, like a lot of them, you know, and it's understandable, they get kind of bogged down about everything that is happening in the country and in the world, and a lot of them can't maintain that enthusiasm for their jobs, or, you know, they're like, oh, it's really hard work having to go outside every day, and they're not really happy about it. So hearing from the Sonoran Institute, Steph was telling me how great her experience was. And so when I got the chance, I applied to work with them.
Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you. Steph.
Thank you. So hi, my name is Stephanie Winnick. I'm from the DC area and I moved to Arizona for college. I remember the first time that I had visited here was the only time maybe I will ever see the Sonoran or the Santa Cruz River from bank to bank filled with water. It was after the really big monsoon season in 2022. And I am majoring in environmental science and Spanish with a minor in Portuguese. And freshman year, I felt like I really wanted to get more involved with internships and things. I felt that I had an ability and an intelligence to be able to perform great things. I always wanted to see the change that I wanted to create in my community, but I felt like I hadn't been doing that yet. Just having started everything and just having taken basic classes, I just wanted much more. And I was responded to an email in September about this position. And I got an interview and it was just like a really great experience. It was like the moment where I started to realize what I could accomplish, and that was really awesome. And I remember Sage, another girl who was already friends with. We, after a club meeting, we went to Chipotle and we both wanted to tell each other about these internships that we got, but we didn't realize it was the same internship. And that was a really, really positive moment that I reflect on very greatly. But as for my work with the Sonoran Institute, I don't get tired of going out there and counting trash. It's really interesting to see what you can find and to follow the scientific process behind it. And I'm involved with a professional fraternity called Epsilon Eta, and I love to get all of the members to come to our trash cleanups, and it always just makes my heart so, so warm. So very thankful for AIR and for the Sonoran Institute. Yay.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for the work that you do. It's really incredible. I'm going to ask one question and then open it up to the audience. So I participated in a river cleanup, Santa Cruz River cleanup a few months ago. And what I noticed was drink containers. It seemed like almost 100% of the trash was drink containers. So I'm wondering, like, given that, and maybe if that's consistent with your observations, is there some way that we might promote action around drink containers so they don't all end up in the Santa Cruz River? Do you have any ideas about that, or about any other piece of trash you've picked up?
So the blue and white drink containers that we're all very easily bringing to mind, right? Like we didn't want to like press the scales too much, right? Like singling out a business or two. But the problem with those is severe enough that we just thought that it rose to the level of, you know what, let's just count those on their own. They're all going to fall within the styrofoam cup category. But when time comes, we can really make a specific assessment of where they are. So, you know, to answer the question about how would we get corporate support perhaps around the work that we're doing, how do we maybe address the blight of styrofoam? Well, the blight of styrofoam is unfortunately a state level issue. No municipality can enact environmental laws that are stricter than the state of Arizona has set for itself. So if municipalities and when municipalities have tried to do that, like plastic bag bans or styrofoam bans, things like DC has done in the last couple of years for having done the very same type of study, they get sued by the state. So it's a statewide problem. So what we can do and what we have found works is engaging with corporate partners who may have an interest in providing a solution. It's not greenwashing. That trash trap that I talked about was funded by Constellation Brands. Anybody know Constellation Brands? They make Corona and Modelo and Pacifico, and their major port of entry into the US is through Nogales. So they reached out to us to say, hey, we're looking for some sort of community project that we can do that will make a difference here. I've been trying to get somebody to pay for one of these trash traps since I started here like 6 years ago. And like, hey, I got them on the hook like right away. It's a quick single capital installation, easy to install, easy to manage. So it's by having thoughtful engagements like that. There's plenty of easily ascribed blame to go around for some of these specific types of trash that we have out there. But we're trying to be as thoughtful, scientific, and intentional about it as we can. But I'm also curious what you guys think about any specific trashes that you want to get at.
I just wanted to talk about just reusable water bottles in general. I think it's so important to not be embarrassed to ask to use your reusable water bottle instead of a plastic one. Go up to Scented Leaf, they'll let you use your water bottles and things like that. And also Hydrocats, through the Students for Sustainability, started a water bottle drive where they got like 150 water bottles to donate to homeless people and things like that. So that's always a good idea.
What I would say, definitely styrofoam cups are a big issue. I think generally a great thing for people to do is try to get informed about how like the city of Tucson or wherever you are currently living deals with waste management. Because for example, city of Tucson, you can't put glass in the recycling because of how it's processed, but there are centers you can go just with your box of glasses and just dispose of them there. We currently are like helping pioneer with another organization, I forget their name off the top of my head, but if you go to like the Ward 6 Recycling Center, by Fusion, thank you. They basically are taking like things that are traditionally unrecyclable or very difficult to recycle plastics, just like grocery bags, Ziplocs. They're now doing styrofoam. They actually didn't do styrofoam for the first couple months, but they've upgraded. They're doing that. And you just take all of that and you can put it, and they're turning it into building material, some of which is given back to the city of Tucson for being kind of the pioneer partner. So I think knowing there's also like downtown, there's Cero, which is like a zero waste store, and they will take like if you have unused like takeout utensils, they'll take those and redistribute them back to local restaurants in Tucson. One thing I really like that they have that is unfortunately not as common in America, in Europe it's everywhere and it's great. When you're done with like your prescription pill bottle, you just take off that little sticker label, clean it with just water or like alcohol, and here you go to Cero and they have a little box, and those pills get redistributed to hospitals to reuse, so they don't have to keep ordering a ton of specialized pill bottles, and especially they also use it at the animal shelters.
That's great. Okay, question from the audience, and I will bring the microphone to you. Yes.
Thank you all so much. Great tip about I actually have a Ziploc bag full of utensils from fast food places. So I know where to take that gallon-sized Ziploc bag now. Where would you say all of this litter, is it litter? Like, where is the trash coming from?
So that is actually kind of what each year we kind of go through. There's like a different set of people, student interns, who are doing the studying. So me and my coworker Andrew, who's not here today, are specifically looking at the washes that feed into the Santa Cruz in case there's any that like specific debris is coming from more. And so some of it is just genuine litter, especially like food packaging is just people throw off the side of like the loop and it ends up there. Something I've also noticed personally, because again, we're looking at which washes contribute kind of what, a lot of it is just kind of not randomly distributed, but it's even distribution. But for example, stuff that's near, like right now in the Mercado district, they're building a bunch of new apartments. And unfortunately, construction companies, if you have like a brick or a wood panel that like snaps in half just during delivery or when you're working with it, a lot of times that just gets chucked into like a nearby like ditch and it'll end up in the river. There's also, again, if you're closer to fast food locations and they don't have like a secure dumpster and wind comes around or like raccoon or even a coyote is going through the trash, stuff gets spilled, ends up in the river. Even certain residential areas, if they don't have those secure dumpsters, there's like one specific wash near this residential area where we noticed there was like a lot of stuff that isn't like traditional litter. It's more like used household goods. So I would say it's a lot of mixed things. Sometimes, there's even just for like people who are homeless if they don't have like any nearby, because on certain parts of the loop they have more like trash cans than others, and we've definitely noticed in like the places where there aren't as many trash cans that are easily accessible for the general public or for people who are living on the riverbed becomes the trash can.
Yeah, it's hard to say exactly where it comes from because we just see it there when it's there. However, it's important to think about just the dynamics of a watershed, and that was the first thing that Luke has ever told me when we first went out to the river, just to think about everything comes from a high point to a low point. So that's how it ends up at the river through runoff and things of that nature. So whatever is the top of the watershed, it will bring it down into the river, and that's why there's such big piles and such.
Okay, another question. You?
Thank you for the conversation. I'm wondering a couple things. Is there a hope to install more of the capturing units? And then also just a little curious about how they actually work. So I did see the silent video where it was pulling things out, but then I assume it goes into a holding area. And I'm wondering just around the maintenance, is someone checking that weekly, or how quickly does that get full?
To the first question, yes, absolutely. We want to install more and more and more of those trash devices. They work. So I also was living, or I'm not from, but I was living in Washington, D.C. before I moved here. And D.C. has installed those trash capture devices in dozens of drainages to the Potomac River and the Anacostia River, all as part of the Chesapeake Bay cleanup, and it really works. The way that especially the bigger ones work, the one that we installed is like the smallest, most like introductory model that they have. But the whole purpose of them is the trash goes in and the trash doesn't come out. It's basically like a big like supermarket shopping cart, right? The trash just holds through, the water moves through, it doesn't impact wildlife, and as the river flows, it's buoyant, so it also like skims along the surface. So the whole point is that it's only skimming off the things on the top. For that smaller one, the smaller one's like as big as like a 55-gallon drum. Like they're really not that big. Santa Cruz County staff go out and they empty it after there's a rain event. For the larger ones, they have like you could use like a winch almost, and it pull the whole payload cage out, dump it in a trash truck, boom, right back in you go, and you've taken out a whole volunteer river cleanup day's worth of trash in 10 minutes. So that's the way that they operate. The hope is to do this more, and by identifying hotspots, like Nick's talking about specific washes that are bringing in trash, if we know the makeup of the trash that's in there, not only where it is, but how much of it floats, how much of it is plastic, how much of it is, whatever, that makes the pitch to the city, to the county, that much more clear and important, because we can tell them specifically what will be hauled out of there if they do install a trash trap a little bit higher up in the watershed to capture that trash before it comes in.
We have just 1 minute left. Can I get each of you to just say a closing word?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, I'm nothing but hopeful. Truly, the data that we have collected has and certainly like continues to make a difference right here in Tucson, but really throughout all of Southern Arizona. And I'm purely grateful for the imagination, the ability, and the access that the AIR has offered Sonoran Institute and dozens of other community partners.
I would definitely agree. This is especially an important time to not be pessimistic, even with a lot of climate catastrophes going on and just general stuff. I think being able to work for a local organization, even if you're just volunteering at one of our trash cleanups or for someone else's trash cleanup, or you just go outside and clean up your block, it's going to make you feel way better. And I think what will also make you feel really great is if you're like me and you message all your friends incessantly to come clean up your block with you, and then you bring your dog, and then they bring chicken for your dog, and your dog thinks it's the best day ever.
I just want to say that I'm very grateful for this internship and for this community, the Tucson community, the Sonoran Institute community, every single person in this room. I know that you guys care, and that is how we are going to be able to make a difference in the future. So thank you all.
Wow. Thank you. Fantastic. I sure needed to hear from you all today, I tell you. Luke will be around. I don't know if you all have to run off to class or you'll be around during the break for questions and conversations. So please join me one more time in thanking our group here. Thank you. All right. So now we are going to go into our first round of short presentations. These are going to be very quick 5-minute presentations. We have 5 speakers, and these speakers represent a wide range of disciplines and experiences here at the university. So I'm not going to give you each an introduction because that would eat into your 5 minutes. So you're just gonna come up and say your name and get going. So we have Kenny Wong, Jessey Singh, Beth Tellman, Jennie Gubner, and Joey Blankinship. And I'm super excited to hear what these folks have to say. We won't have time for questions after each talk, but during the break, hopefully we'll have time for questions and conversation with each of these speakers. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Kenny. And here is your slide advancer. Do you want to hold the mic or do you want me to put it up here? Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Sharon and the Arizona Institute for Resilience team for the invitation to speak today, and for all the amazing work and collaborations you support across the campus. I'm Kenny Wong, a lecturer in the College of Architecture, Planning, and Landscape Architecture, and I'll be sharing some of the ways I've carried place-based and community-engaged learning into the Sustainable Built Environments, or SBE, program of CAPLA. SBE 301 is an introduction to design thinking, where students learn about the design process and some of the technical skills needed to draw, document, communicate, and shape the built environment around us. This is often the first studio or design course that many of my students take, and I encourage them to think about both the space of the studio as well as our practice within it, shown here by the collage of our pinup and one of the many presentations that students deliver. I extend this connection between physical places and the social practices they facilitate into the way students engage with partners outside of the classroom, listening and learning from leaders within the community and showing up to participate in neighborhood events. At the core of this approach is to highlight the importance of social infrastructure for thriving public life as it considers sustainable built environments. This concept draws on the work of Eric Kleinenberg, sociologist and author of Palaces for the People, who defines social infrastructure as the people, places, and institutions that foster cohesion and support, as well as the geographers Alan Latham and Jack Layton, who have extended it to an argument for an infrastructural approach to the public life of cities. So this class has focused on the El Pueblo Neighborhood Center, a key piece of social infrastructure for the south side of Tucson. And in addition to all it provides to the community, it's also a locus for some collaborations here on campus to activate and reinvigorate it with the Sunnyside Unified School District Foundation, Public and Applied Humanities, the Center for Creative Photography, as well as the generous support of public agencies on site and grants from the College of Fine Arts and AIR. So you see photos of a few of the key facilities at El Pueblo today, which has grown from the original 5 buildings to over a dozen covering 33 acres. Students hear about the history of the center, designed by local Swaim architects and completed in 1975, that followed upon the creation of El Rio Neighborhood Center out of Chicano organizing on the west side of Tucson. That struggle inspired residents of the south side to organize for their own center, and many actors connected with both movements participated. So this advocacy resonates in the nearly 24 community centers created across the entire city of Tucson since then. So in the classroom, we take public transportation together, thankfully fare-free, participating in the mix of public life taking place at the center. We learn from staff at the different facilities, even seeing it after hours with bike rides organized by Fuga, neighborhood cycling advocates. These visits thicken the connections between university and the city, campus life and community life. Part of this is to allow students to see ways that they can be rooted in the place that they're learning and to show that their own university is part of Tucson's social infrastructure. I encourage them to learn new dimensions of their city and its planning and add their fresh perspectives to conversations about our shared place. So in collaborating with the Southside community, this has helped students connect with the past, better see their present, and hopefully feel that they can shape the future of wherever they are. Students use their experiences here to empathize, design, and visualize their perspectives of what might be possible here at the center. They share with community members who join our studios and pinups to see new ideas and physical models that reliably capture their imagination and show what might be possible. To the left, green retrofits, the activity center, in the middle, farmers markets, and reliably each year students search for ways to transform the expansive parking lots at the center into more generous spaces of social life. And what might start on the drawing boards can be brought into reality. There's even conversation about creating a container and hub for Fuga, those neighborhood cycling advocates. So it's been a pleasure to be a part of a team reinvigorating the center and introducing our students into the richness of it and inspire them to shape sustainable built environments. In tying together design and community engagement, I hope to show that creating social infrastructure, shared spaces, and the sociality they enable must be a key part of thinking about the city and the places we shape, even from the classroom to advance sustainability and neighborhood resilience. So I invite you to get in touch. El Pueblo will be celebrating its 50th year in October, and we're planning ahead with support of AIR for an exhibition and community celebration then. So thank you for allowing me to share.
All right, Jessey.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jessey Singh, and I'm an undergraduate here at the University of Arizona, majoring in creative writing with a minor in professional and technical writing. It is an absolute joy to be welcomed here into this space to talk about my experience with resilience as well as writing. So we're going to go ahead and get started. To me, resilience isn't just about being a first-generation college student coming from the most impoverished county in California, or learning to properly read at the age of 12. No, my greatest practice of resilience is the simple, audacious decision to create a career out of English. The images you see behind me are the emotional turmoil that we go through as writers in conducting our craft into a career. As you can tell, I have an emotional support cat. Her name is Stevie. And then right there, the one with tears magnified by my glasses, is me rewriting my thesis for the 4th time. It is no secret that writing and literature can sometimes be undervalued or dismissed when compared to other majors or other careers. But that couldn't be further from the truth. Writing is the ultimate practice of resilience. And resilience, at its core, is an act of creation. What I mean by this is to write is to take what's inside of us, our thoughts, emotions, and experience, and shape them into something meaningful. It is the radical belief that our words can rewrite the narratives we've inherited and challenge the systems we live within, and reimagine what is possible. However, while stories hold hope and possibility, they also reveal why oppressive systems fear writers. There is a reason why books are banned, why stories are erased, and why words and voices, especially those that challenge the systems of power, are silenced. Because writing is not just an act of self-expression, it is an act of defiance, a radical assertion that the world we inherit is not a world we have to accept. And that is exactly why stories have always been a battleground. Throughout history, writing has been used to carve cracks into systems once thought unbreakable. Enslaved people risked their lives to learn to read because literacy meant liberation. Women wrote under male names because their voices couldn't or wouldn't be heard and valued. Entire revolutions have been sparked by words on a page. And even now, we see the fear of narratives, the desperate attempts to control who gets to tell the stories, what gets taught, what gets remembered, and what gets buried. This is not by accident. Because stories hold systems of power, they determine whose voices are heard, whose experiences are validated, and whose futures are imagined. And if we accept the stories handed to us without question, we risk accepting the systems they uphold. But here's the thing. Just as stories can uphold power, they can also dismantle it. Paired with resilience, writing gives us the ultimate power to question, to reimagine, and to rewrite. As I conclude, I invite you to reflect on this quote pulled from my favorite book as a child. Stories are light. Light is precious in a world so dark. I'm here to also remind you to share your stories, because when we tell our stories, when we write our world, we reclaim power. And that, I believe, is the ultimate act of resilience. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessey. Beth Tellman.
Wow, thanks, Jessey. Tough act to follow, but I'm going to share my story. So my story is using AI to enable just and resilient futures. And there's a big need for this. If we just think about the major floods that have happened recently in the US, y'all probably saw Hurricane Helene on the news. This is a picture of what it looked like in one home in Western North Carolina. These counties in North Carolina had less than 1% insurance rate. So it's going to be challenging, if not impossible, for a lot of these folks to recover. And this is a major problem in the US and around the world. And what my lab does to work on this problem is map water. We map floods like Hurricane Helene using satellite data, many different satellites, lots of fancy AI techniques to quite simply pick out these blue areas you see on the map as accurately as we can. And the reason that we do this is not because we can stop the water with our AI and our flood data, but we can build financial resilience. So one of the things that I've been working on since I founded a company about a decade ago called Floodbase is to come up with new types of insurance using satellite data. The satellite data and the AI that I work on is so much more accurate than the current way that we map floods in the US. This is an example of work that we did with Bloomberg showing how much FEMA's maps in some places, 83% of the flooding in Hurricane Helene wasn't on their map. So we can do a much better job with newer technology and mapping that risk. And we can come up with new types of insurance to cover those places. Index insurance is the type of insurance that I work on, and you can get a payout directly from satellite data instead of waiting around for an adjuster to come to your house or fighting them in court about how much damage there was. So that's what I work on. One place that we're doing this type of innovative insurance is for municipalities in California. Instead of just insuring their legislative building, which is currently what municipalities do, they can now insure their budget. and their tax revenue. They buy a type of program called business interruption insurance that's powered by our AI satellite flood maps to pay out and get them lost tax revenue. The city of Fremont has already bought a policy. Anaheim is considering buying one because every time Disney World closes down, they lose money that they need. So now they're going to be protected against that loss. But resilience isn't just about finances and insurance. It's about fighting back, and it's about changing the rules when they're unjust. One of my stories about flood resilience comes from the US-Mexico border in South Texas. This is a picture of Hurricane Dolly in 2008 in the Rio Grande Valley. And a community-based organization founded by Cesar Chavez and Dolores Huerta called Lupe, La Unión del Pueblo Entero, noticed that most of the communities they work with were getting denied their flood recovery money by FEMA. So they contacted lawyers at Texas Rio Grande Legal Aid and say, hey, could y'all look into this? And what they found was FEMA was systematically denying people their payouts based on a policy called deferred maintenance. In other words, if your floor looks like it was destroyed or you couldn't tell just because they were poor, write down deferred maintenance and don't give the payout. So these lawyers took FEMA to court, they sued them, and they won. And we started conversations with my PhD student, Lucas Belluri, with these lawyers and said, hey, what if you had these like awesome satellite flood maps to do this work? And they were like, yes, we could do more of this, and maybe we don't even have to go to court, and we could get people flood recovery money and advocate for disaster declarations that the governor of Texas won't declare. So we built a database with them, and we didn't just make nice flood maps of their flood history. We did a lot of community work, incorporating people's lived experiences into our AI algorithm so that the maps could get better. What you see here in blue is new floodwater we could only detect because we did the work in communities writing down where they had experienced floods. This is not just important to increase our accuracy by 10%, it increases community trust. I'm now working on more flood justice work beyond the US-Mexico border, across the US, through a new NSF research coordination network to get communities and scientists together to do this more everywhere. And I'm so grateful that AIR was able to fund me to write this proposal for a semester and take this work that we're doing in the Social Pixel Lab nationwide. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Beth. Jennie Gubner.
Hi, everyone. I want to talk today about two different ways that I think arts participation can support issues of health and wellness that are affecting our communities. The first has to do with aging. Our world is getting older. Our healthcare systems are woefully underprepared to support the needs of older adults. We need creative solutions, we need collaborative solutions, and the arts have a lot of different ways that they can support older adults if we think about them in different ways. The second thing is loneliness. In 2023, the Surgeon General published a report saying that we had an epidemic of loneliness in the United States. We are getting lonelier and lonelier. Older adults are disproportionately affected, but we are all getting lonelier. The picture on the right might look like a happy mom with two beautiful babies. They are my beautiful babies. But it's also a mom who works too much, who's a professor, who is overworked, who's juggling, who rarely sleeps, and who does not have a healthy social life in the way that I once did. And I also am in need of support, creative supports for my well-being and health. The solution, arts participation. We're learning more and more about how arts and participating in the arts is good for our health. This is a study coming out of the University of Florida, looking at all the different ways that just being engaged in the arts with others is good for our health. I think that we can see that of reduction of stress, reduce of loneliness,
all sorts of things that go beyond this. But the more that we understand that arts participation isn't just something that is fun, but that is good for us, the healthier that we can be. And one of the recent studies that just came out talks about how participating in the arts, they're now saying, is as good for you as participating in physical activities. So you know that going to the gym is good for you, but do you know that going to hear music is good for you? You should. As someone that has trained in Latin American popular music as an ethnomusicologist, I bring to this question the question of how is it that we could look to models of cultural organizing from Latin America to serve the needs of our local population and to promote intergenerational health and well-being here in our community in Tucson. About a year ago, I started something called La Peña del Surco. A peña is a form of organizing that comes out of South America, primarily Chile and Argentina, where people come together, play music, share the stage, eat, dance, and enjoy each other's company in very participatory and informal ways. La Peña del Surco is an initiative that I started here with the help of my band and graduate students, one of whom is in the room, Sydney Stradiff. And we have been trying to create a place of belonging here in Tucson, of resilience. And I'm going to play a video so you can see it.
We come here and get together at this event to enjoy and celebrate each other's music and culture. I could not be more grateful to this event because it represents resistance to forgetting where we come from and who we are. Then the community we built and how we got here. Everything we do in life is because of others. So we need each other. Be kind to each other. Thank you.
Each month, our South American folk group plays a set. We invite another local community group to play a set, and then community members of all ages can take the stage and perform. We want this to be welcoming folks from all ages and all backgrounds, both on stage and off, from the community, from our university, and more. We encourage singing together. We encourage families to bring their children. We encourage this as an age-friendly event where you shouldn't be ashamed of having a baby that cries or laughs or runs across the stage in the middle of a performance. It's all about building community and building belonging. The thing that I'm most proud of in what we're building is a space of intercultural listening and intergenerational listening. I could talk a lot more about that, but I'm almost out of time. But when I ask our community what they're getting out of being there, why they understand this as health and well-being as something that's good for them, nobody has said that they don't think it's good for their health. And you can see a lot of the reasons that people are giving us about why it becomes important to come back month after month. We have between 100 and we've had, I think, 150 people, 100 to 150 people each month that are showing up, representing almost all Spanish-speaking countries from across Latin America, representing all ages. And we welcome you to come and join us next month. I think we're teaching people to think about the arts, or we're trying to teach people to think about the arts and arts participation, again, not only as something that is fun, but something that is good for you and good for our community and good for taking care of each other. Thank you. And I want to thank Chris Satterrain, who did all the photos and the video that you just saw, but I realized his name was not on the screen. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you so much. All right, Joey, and then we will have a break.
Good afternoon. This is too short. Or I'm too tall. Did you know that drylands cover about 45% of the Earth's land surface and are home to roughly 2.5 billion people? Perhaps even more important, did you know that nearly half of the world's croplands are in arid and semi-arid climates, thus feeding roughly 3.5 billion people? My perspective on resilience is that human societies need to build resilient ecosystems and food production systems from the ground up. Therefore, it is time that we stop treating our soil like dirt. Soil is teeming with microbial life, organic matter, nutrients, and acts as a sponge to hold on to precious water. Dirt, on the other hand, literally comes from the word poop. It is dead, dysfunctional, and can cause catastrophic dust storms that endanger human life. The word human itself comes from the same root as humus, or earth. The Latin name for man, homo, derived from humus, the stuff of life in the soil. Therefore, healthy and resilient humans depend on healthy and resilient soils. Soil health is the foundation of environmental and human resilience. This figure on the right summarizes some of the many ecosystem services provided by soil. These benefits range from carbon sequestration to climate change mitigation, to water quantity and quality, to sources of pharmaceutical drugs, to preserving cultural heritage, to producing food, fiber, and fuel. As one farmer in Yuma, Arizona put it, soil health supports the growth of crops now and 100 years from now. My research is working to link soil health to sustainability and resilience goals of land managers, farmers, NGOs, state and federal governments, indigenous tribes, and philanthropic foundations. The holy grail of enhancing soil health is to find ways to build soil organic matter in extreme environments such as the Sonoran Desert. If we can increase soil organic matter, it will be possible to reduce our carbon footprint, improve efficiency of water use, and reduce reliance on external inputs such as fertilizer. Healthy soils, all rich in organic matter and microbial life, also conserve water by reducing the amount of water required to manage soil salinity and plant production. Because food is medicine, healthy soils are a form of healthcare by enabling nutrient-dense fruits and vegetables. And to top it off, healthy soils will enable farmers to reduce their reliance on expensive external inputs such as fertilizers and pesticides to increase their profit margin and economic sustainability. Therefore, I created the Desert Agriculture Soil Health Initiative, or DASHI, in 2023 to address these opportunities to enhance resilience from the ground up in the desert Southwest and globally. Soil health has been a perfect opportunity to unify the Yuma Center of Excellence for Desert Agriculture, cooperative extension and tribal extension, indigenous tribes, academic, governmental, and international researchers, state and federal legislators, non-governmental organizations, federal funding agencies, philanthropic foundations, crop producers, equipment companies, seed companies, fertilizer companies, biological product companies, and all the way to food retailers. Therefore, creating a web, an interconnected web of stakeholders with a common vision. DASHI's vision is to sustain desert agriculture globally during the next 100 years and beyond, thereby supporting food production to improve human health, food security, and economic sustainability, economic growth in urban, rural, and tribal communities. DASHI aims to advance soil health knowledge and implementation of best management practices in desert agriculture. Remember, soil is not dirt. Soil is a pathway to resilience. Thank you.
Wow, what an impressive start to the day. So we are going to now take a short break. Please return at 2:35. And please use this opportunity to interact with somebody maybe you've never met before, to follow up with an inspiration you had as you heard some of the presenters so far today. And we'll see you at 2:35. Please walk out into the courtyard, enjoy the nice weather outside, and enjoy conversation. We'll be back at 2:35. All right, I want to keep us on schedule. So if somebody could stick their head out the door and encourage people to return to the room, that would be awesome. So for this next part of our program, you will need your electronic device. You can use your phone or your tablet or your laptop. This is the interactive part of our activity this afternoon. So we are going to use an app called Pigeonhole. So you can either scan this QR code or you can enter into your web browser pigeonhole, one word, .at. And then when that comes up, it will ask you to enter a code. And that code is ENR2. And then there will be an arrow that you can press to get into our interactive part, our questions. There's also a QR code on your table that will lead you to this pigeonhole. And if you have questions, ask a younger person. All right, so we're going to go into the first questions. Is everybody in? Getting there? Okay. The first question's really easy. Please enter one word that describes your impression of this event so far. Okay, 2 people have already answered. Good, good, good. Now, if you would like to remain anonymous, you can. If you would like to enter your name, if you go up into the upper right-hand corner of that app, it says profile, and you can enter your name and email address. That would be helpful for future questions, just so we can start to engage with each other. But for now, it's okay for you to remain anonymous on this part. All right. Love it. Inspiring, interdisciplinary, enlightening, amazing. You can keep going. Also know that we will be able to export a PDF of all of the answers for these questions, so we can retain that, a record of those answers, and we'll be distributing that to all of the participants afterwards. Okay, Crystal, you can go to the next question. This is another very simple one. We're curious to hear where you are from. So if you can enter what department, school, or college are you affiliated with at the U of A, or if you are from a community organization, you can enter that as well. And once again, you can answer this anonymously, or you can go to that profile setting and enter your name. So we've got environmental science, public health, history, School of Animal and Comparative Biomedical Sciences, SNRE, air, planning. Wonderful. Research Development Services, SBS. What an incredible group of folks from all across the campus. Chemistry and Biochemistry, College of Science. Biosphere 2 and Honors College. All right, and I see some people have added their names. Excellent. Once again, we'll be able to retain and capture this information so that we can have a record of who's attending today. Now, this next question is going to be a little harder. I'm just warning you, but it's going to be fun. 1 sentence life story. Sum up your life to date in 1 single sentence. So I'm going to give you a little bit longer to work on this. And then I'm going to ask for volunteers to read their 1 sentence. This is a way for us to connect with each other. It's part of building our community, learning about each other, appreciating each other. So take a few minutes. Write a 1 sentence life story. Oh, these are wonderful. Keep it coming. And if you want to write a second one, you can do that too. Maybe. I don't know if the app will allow you to do that. Now, those of you who are on Zoom, it would be great if you wanted to read out your one sentence life story. Crystal's going to monitor the Zoom room there if somebody would like to speak up. Who is ready to go? Don't be shy. Raise your hand. Stand up. Speak up in the chat, speak up on Zoom. Shy? Are you shy? I'm looking straight at Olivia. Okay, here we go. Yes. Please tell us your name too and what group you're affiliated with or where on the university you're.
So mine was transforming and growing, and I'm going to edit because I'm an editor. At every turn is the story of my life. Who knows what's in the next chapter? I've lived in like 6 different states. I come from Puerto Rico. I've done lots of different jobs, and I finally found that working in a function that allows me to help make the world and society better for the next generation is my purpose.
And you sound incredibly resilient. Yes. Who's next? Thank you so much. Christina? Yes. Yes, I remember you. Who wants to go next? Okay, I might have to call on somebody. You know, I am a former professor. Ravi.
What was the assignment? Just
life story.
Oh, persistent and being resourceful got me here. And being resourceful. If you keep your eyes open, there's always opportunity, and it won't come to you. You have to go get it.
Thank you. All right, Meg is okay.
Hi, I'm Meg Bennett from Research Development Services, and mine's actually the top one. I'm a scientist and artist in the pursuit of helping others and making change, and we will resist. And I am so stoked that everybody is here today because I don't know if you need it, but I need it, especially today. And heck yeah.
Thank you, Meg. All right, I'm up here. I'm feeling it there, Amanda. I don't know. No? Okay. You're absorbing. Okay. Who would like to share their one sentence life story? Okay, Kenny.
Thanks for the upvotes. I think I'm the second one there, and my family's of immigrants. My other hat is also doing housing research, so thinking about home and the places that we travel and those stories. I think it's something that resonates with people and drives what I'm interested in.
Thank you so much. Sure. Okay.
Sharon, it's nice to meet you. I'm Andy Schultz. We'll do this in public. I don't know. I was in a mood where I wish I was feeling more resilient. I describe myself as a native New Yorker in exile in the desert. Okay. And I think of exile actually as an act of creation and creativity. So it's not. I think there are many dimensions to the idea of exile, and especially in thinking about this landscape. So that's what I said.
Exile sounds kind of lonely to me, but can you say more about that?
So my life isn't very lonely. I think and I think most of us in this room are experience some sort of displacement. I mean, places. I mean, place is an interesting theme in terms of this afternoon, and so I think about it in relation to that and what it means to be uprooted and take roots somewhere else, and what that means in terms of loss and renewal at the same time. So those, I mean, I don't know, I'm riffing here, so I'll stop.
Good. I like it. I like it. Okay. Yes. Can you say who you are too?
It's Vanya Fletcher, and I'm just returning to school after being a city planner for many years, looking into climate change. And on your note, I am a cultural transplant. I was born in Brazil, Portuguese descendancy, and I actually moved in here because I was in love with Abraham Lincoln, the ideals of freedom. And I grew up in a time that if you open your mouth in Brazil during a certain revolution, you could not speak your mind, which I find this moment extremely troubling for me, because I moved in here not to better my life, but to become a better human and be free. So I actually needed this, and I'm quite amazed at young people with a lot of beautiful things to say. Thank you.
Well, I'm impressed with you starting back to school. Congratulations. That's amazing. Thank you. Ellen?
I came in late, so I'm not sure. I was just kind of trying to figure out what's going on. Do you want my life story? Let's see. Bouncing back and forth between the arts and sciences, trying to figure out what the hell's going on.
And can you say more about that?
I think I ended up as an associate dean for research in the arts because I was trying to figure out what was actually going on. And as I will say in a few minutes, I think that cutting the arts and humanities out of the way we think about knowledge creation has created a very bad situation where we actually have more knowledge than we ever have had before, and we're acting dumber than we ever had before. Or, I mean, it's the gap of the values and the ethics and the embodied and active experiences that are in the arts and the humanities that we've cut out of science because we need to we need objective information, we need propositional knowledge, but all the kinds of knowledges that we've lost, I think we really need to reintegrate. So I think that's why I'm here. It's my calling. I found it.
That's amazing. All right, let's see. I got to check my timer here. Okay, we've got just a couple more minutes. How about just a couple more one-sentence life stories? Shelley?
Oh man, I think I put mine up as something like running in the desert, which sometimes I feel like that's all it's going to boil down to is still running around in the desert. I agree with everyone. I'm Shelley. I'm the communications lead for the Arizona Institute for Resilience, which is why I'm up here trying to help keep the show running. I'm also a student in the College of Engineering, pursuing a master's in systems engineering. And I got my undergraduate degree in anthropology here at the University of Arizona. So kind of crossing sectors and disciplines myself a little bit. I really agree with everyone here who said they're trying to figure out what's going on. I feel like that kind of summarizes a lot of the quest of life and science and all of our academic activities as well.
Thank you. Shelley, by the way, put together this massive slide deck. So thank you, Shelley. All right, a couple more. Who would like to share their one-sentence life story? Okay, this is just.
Yeah, so my name is Sonoran, and my one sentence was, and if I can pull it up again, always takes a minute. Travel across 3 continents to experience and research Earth processes from rocks to tropical forests. And so I'm originally from the Netherlands. I live here in Tucson. I actually do research here at Biosphere 2. I run the rainforest research there, and I also do work in Brazil and in Peru in the tropical forests. Peru, actually, I don't go back to anymore. I nearly died there one time, so I don't want to repeat that. Talk about resilience. But one thing, and this is the reason why I wanted to raise my hand, as an earth scientist, I really want to second Ellen here that really we need more creativity, curiosity about our planet, because we seem to have really lost that.
Thank you so much. And I've heard so much about you. It's nice to finally meet you in person. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, 1 or 2 more. Yes. All right, Liliana.
Hi, hello. My life sentence is Liliana Salvador, assistant professor at the School of Animal and Comparative Biomedical Sciences. I've been here for almost 2 years. And my sentence is first generation blessed with opportunities from around the world. So I'm a native of Portugal. I born and raised, and I just left to do my studies. I was a computer scientist, and I became an ecologist, and I became an epidemiologist, and now a bioinformatician, and who knows what is coming. And so I really believe in interdisciplinary, but the point that I really wanted to make is that I lived in Scotland in very, very dark, wet times, but also now I live in the desert in very hot and dry times. But everywhere I've been, I found an amazing, amazing group of people. And so that's why I've been blessed with the people I've met and the opportunities, and that's what I'm going to focus on. It is just really what we have good around. So thank you all for this afternoon. It has been very inspiring.
Oh, thank you so much. And you'll hear more from Liliana in a few minutes. All right. Well, thank you all. I know that was a little bit vulnerable for us, but I think it's a great way to open up and get to know each other a little bit better. So thank you all for participating, and these will be saved, as I said. We're going to finish this first networking activity with 2 last questions. So you've probably all heard about the Big Idea Challenge that our new Senior Vice President for Research, who was here earlier, Tomás Diaz de la Rubia, has initiated. This is an opportunity for inter and transdisciplinary teams to come together and propose a big idea for a research project. And those teams will receive $125,000 per year for 2 years, so up to $250,000 to propose a big idea. And he has continued to emphasize that it is not his intention that these teams will solve these big ideas or solve these big challenges in that 2-year period, but it's really about building the team that will be able to address this big challenge or big idea and to pursue external funding opportunities to support that. So it's really about building the team, building the community, building the expertise that you all need to address these big challenges. So just 2 questions. The first one is, for which one of the following areas are you primarily interested in building or joining a team? And so these are the 6 areas that Tomás has put forward as 6 strategic areas that he is looking to fund. So this first question is, which one are you primarily interested in? And the second question is, which one are you secondarily interested in? And the reason I'm asking is because a little later this afternoon, I'd like to get folks together in small groups in the room We'll ask for a little more detail about what you're interested in within these 6 strategic areas so that we can start to form smaller groups. Just take 15, 20 minutes or so to start the conversation that you might then take out of this room and identify who else needs to be in your conversation to address the big idea that you have. And you know, we get so caught up in our busy lives that I think it's always nice to just have some time and space to let your mind wander a little bit and to talk with others whose minds might also be wandering a little bit, and to let those ideas flow freely and not be constrained by having to coalesce them so urgently. So this is really a time to be expansive and to be thinking and letting your mind wander. So you can go ahead and answer both of these questions. And again, we'll return to these this afternoon a little bit later. All right, so now we have our second documentary film clip. We have Ellen McMahon and Aaron Bugaj, who are going to be speaking to arts integration, and Nicole Entebbe, who is not here today, but we will be showing a film that she has participated in producing. Welcome, Ellen.
I don't have any. So ironically enough, I don't have any pictures. You can close your eyes if you want while I'm talking. I'm the Associate Dean for Research in the Arts, the first research Associate Dean in the Arts that this institution has ever had. Thanks to Andy Schultz, who hired me for this position. But anyway, so I just want to make a few remarks about how wonderful Sharon has been in her recognition and appreciation of the critical roles of practice-led arts research in building resilient individuals and communities. Most people agree that effective interdisciplinary collaborations require all participants to be on equal footing. But this equality is very rare between artists and researchers in other fields. I hate to be the Debbie Downer here, but from my experience, art, of course, is very good at this, and these are great and useful partnerships, but they are unequal because the norm is that funding is granted to non-artist PIs who then select and direct the artist contribution in the research setting. But for the last 2 years, AIR has been changing all of this by funding artist researchers directly as PIs on projects operating out of my office in the College of Fine Arts. When artists are PIs, projects exceed the inter, multi, and transdisciplinary to become what might be understood as meta-disciplinary because of the span of the connections that are made. So the AIR funded projects over the last 2 years have included 5 colleges, 7 departments and schools, 4 external partners, 5 community organizations, and 4 UA centers, institutes, and extension units. They've engaged high school students working on borderlands restoration through creative writing and visual art, healthcare leaders on the San Carlos Apache Reservation, generations of residents of Tucson Southside through photography, video, and archiving, art undergrads and environmental scientists at B2 through film and animation, and people from many communities in Tucson through free public arts research workshops on environmental issues on Tumamuck Hill. This last project included the Millennium Camera, installed by Jonathan Keats just past the buildings on Tumamuck Hill. And as we speak, this small copper pinhole camera is working away on a single long exposure image, which will record 1,000 years of change in the Tucson Valley. This art object so captured people's imagination that it garnered media attention globally with hundreds of articles and interviews, more than 300 now, and in over 25 languages. So this coverage, listed as one of the top 10 UA stories in 2024, brought attention to the institution's contributions to ecology through 100 years of repeat photography at Tumamuck Hill, and demonstrated the power of practice-led arts research to impact the public imagination. This cost the university $3,000, and I got 300 articles. So thanks to AIR, we're running 6 more projects this year. 2 more Millennium cameras will be installed on the Santa Rita Experimental Range, another site of a century of repeat photography in the service of rangeland management. A water justice and advocacy project on the Santa Cruz River that addresses the surrounding community's historic struggle to care for their water and environment. And we will hear from Sarah later, another Santa Cruz project, and there's lots of great work being done on that river. An aerial theater training for students to perform a physical theater project about climate change. And in the proposal, the PI writes, the precarious balance and use of the body in trapeze artistry and the expression of the art as an embodiment of resilience are strong metaphors for the delicate balance of nature in this time of the Anthropocene. El Pueblo 50, which Kenny Wong mentioned, a community co-curated public exhibition documenting and presenting the stories of Southside Tucson, and a weekend retreat in arts practice, a weekend training in arts practices for STEM PhD students as a method to see their research with fresh eyes and communicate it to a general audience. Participants of that workshop will be featured in the Festival of Books in the science tent. And last but not least, AIR has funded the Wonder Studio and their project, Moving Science. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Aaron Bouget, who will be talking about that.
Hey everybody, I'm Aaron Bouget. As Ellen mentioned, she was just instrumental, and thank you to AIRS really for funding this Wonder Studio project. We started this project really probably 5 or 6 years ago, and some of our earliest supporters are in the audience today. I'm looking at Kevin and Yost, John Chorover, and right back at Ellen. Nicole and Tebby and I got connected through Ellen several years ago, and we identified opportunities to collaborate at the Biosphere by integrating Biosphere 2 research into Nicole's animation courses. And after that first course integration, we really felt that something was there. And we started applying for grants and building out what's become the Wonder Studio. And we called it the Wonder Studio at Biosphere 2 because Wonder was identified by a Wharton marketing professor as one of the key ways in which to spread word of mouth messaging and ideas as fast as possible. And it kind of speaks to what Ellen mentioned about the pinhole photograph and how these things can really spread fast when we tap into thinking differently and tapping into that wonder. And so this is what has inspired the name. In practice, we kind of consider ourselves a hybrid film animation and data visualization studio embedded in the Biosphere, but partnering with people like the Borderlands Restoration Network, as well as research PIs across Biosphere 2 and other research units across the university. And in this sizzle film that I'm going to play, you'll see clips of several different projects. So it's not a complete work, it's more of a highlight reel. But it'll show you some of the breadth of work, some of the different regions of Arizona and of the world we've been working in. And it's been a really amazing ride. So yeah, I guess we can play it.
So you made a time lapse of us zooming around on the gantry. And I think that that now has been seen by something like 400 undergraduates, each one of which has basically said like, whoa, what are you doing? Like, what is that? And so I show it to them before I explain it as a process of inquiry. And if I could have a nickel for every surprising question I get from students, a photo of Leo is great, but a moving photo is powerful. And it really resonates with young people today in a way that is emotive and exciting that I didn't necessarily expect. So I love showing that. And then in my presentations to our students, I like to do a few other things. You know, one is that we go through some of the beautiful organisms that we see. And then I look at Leo through the lens of the animation students. These are students in the fine arts. They come to the scientific world with a very different lens than my own. But I can say that when we got together in this room and we zoomed in and looked at moss together, we all had goosebumps at the same moment. And that same feeling of like, whoa, cool, was universal. And I think that that universal feeling is something that we as scientists can capture and carry on. But sometimes we need help in representing it to the world beyond us. And so in this case, the fine arts students made an incredible animation that I watch every once in a while. When I'm feeling down, I watch it because it's about resilience, it's about how organisms can thrive, and it's about an interpretation that I think is really compelling. That then translates to, oh, all of a sudden I'm talking to a group of fine arts students. All of a sudden we're having conversations about the philosophy of resilience and growth and building blocks. All of a sudden I'm thinking about my science from a new direction.
I was like 2 when Sesame Street came out, and I was like, you know, in my 20s, and I made something for MTV. And so like for me, it's like the same thing. It's reaching, you know, an audience, a wide audience through like experimental animation. Again, completely innovative, weird looking stuff, and you're reaching this huge broad audience, and you can be like one person making it. You don't have to be a whole team. So I think that's what's cool about it.
Me coming here for the first time during the residency, I think I do remember saying like, yeah, I just want to be present in the moment and just, you know, see things, feel things, touch things if I'm allowed. For that residency, we each picked a different topic, a different biome, something that we were interested in. I was really interested in the agrivoltaic site that they have, with agrivoltaics being a very beneficial system of growing crops and producing energy. How could a system like that be used to benefit the rest of society, specifically in terms of social justice? And my mind went towards, you know, those experiencing homelessness. I believe in Tucson, there's only a few shelters that are actively up and running, and it's not enough to house everyone that is in need of housing, of a place where they feel safe, especially. So I wondered, is there a way to combine these two ideas to have an agrivoltaic site function as a temporary shelter where they can also have access to, you know, clean, healthy food that's grown out in the open air underneath these solar panels?
Why should people care about the Sonoran Desert? And Tucsonans have a lot of pride in where they're from or where they live. And all of that is informed by the biodiversity of the Sonoran Desert. The way people interact with the landscape, the things that they see and experience in the desert inform their language, what they wear, how they express themselves, and providing them with very tangible or imaginative explanations for things that seem incredible or that may not seem incredible, but have incredible stories. Those are things that I try and deliver in a really memorable way so that those ways of thinking become unforgettable.
I love the fact that Marshall Islands, it's one of the most unique place in the world. And it's not just the uniqueness of the setting of the land, the ocean, but the people, how they treat the ocean, how they depend on the ocean, and how we all depend on each other to survive on these rocks. But as long as there is sand on the beach, on the rock, on these corals, we'll hang on. We have the right to put our nose above the ocean. There's so many things that have happened to us, from World War II to the nuclear testing to climate change, and yet we're still happy people. We live here, very resilient and very humble people. We're from a very shy culture. We don't go around the world and say we know how to do this. We're the best in this. We're just trying to be us and just trying to get as much help as possible from the world and from each other, just so we can survive as long as we can survive on these rocks.
So more words just came to me after watching that. The first I want to say is that everything you saw on the screen is a huge group effort, from PI support to funding across different organizations here on campus. All the animation work was done by undergraduate students, either as a part of a course integration or as a Biosphere 2 animation residency that Nicole and I have hosted at Biosphere 2 for a couple years now. We're kind of meta about all this stuff in the ways in which art and can drive research, but also in the ways that it can be integrated across the university's research portfolio. And so in addition to making films, we're also making films about making films. So we're interviewing outreach specialists like Robert Villa from Tumamoc Hill and other animators and practitioners across the field to kind of learn what's the state of the art for this kind of work and how can we bring it back to the university and really unleash it. And I think Nicole and I feel strongly that, it's super important, as Robert said, to make the stories that we tell, whether it's about research or about the integration of science into society, it's important to make them unforgettable, strong and beautiful. And that requires production value, and it requires collaboration and our own form of resilience. And that last clip from the Marshall Islands, I just came back from the Marshalls a couple weeks ago and interviewed Allison, and his interview made me tear up because you can feel the emotion. He's from the Bikini Atoll, which is one of the atolls that there was nuclear testing on. And our director of the ocean biome, Diane Thompson, does research out in the Marshalls and has been doing so for 10 years, studying the drought history through a process called sclerochronology. And we're kind of going back in time through Diane's research, but meeting amazing, resilient people along the way and you saw those rainwater harvesting cistern shots. The Marshall Islands are a lot like Tucson in that regard. They're harvesting every drop of rainwater, and in some ways, in more innovative ways than we are here in Tucson. So, you know, as we're exploring these connections, both in the borderlands, in the biosphere, and all around the world, we're just realizing that there are so many people that we can learn from and collaborate with. So thank you.
Thank you. And I'm sorry I mispronounced your name. Bouget. Thank you. All right, we are moving now to our second round of short presentations. Ufuoma, Liliana, Alex, and Oskar. And on this slide earlier today was Greg Barron Gafford, but he is doing his civic duty as member of a jury. So he is not going to be here, which is really sad. So, and Oskar is coming from class. And so what we're going to do is do the first 3 talks, and then we'll take a stretch break, but please don't leave the room because Oskar will be coming in from class. He's an undergraduate and will be our final speaker of this set. So Ufuoma is joining us virtually. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. And we can hear you. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me today. My name is Ufuoma Ovienmhada, and I'm a Baker postdoctoral fellow in the Arizona Institute for Resilience. My perspectives on resilience are informed by my work designing and applying geospatial technologies to study environmental injustice in prison landscapes, which I refer to in shorthand as toxic prisons. What do prisons have to do with environmental injustice? Well, we don't have to look any further than current events from last month. In Los Angeles, there were 7 jails within 1.5 miles of the wildfires, and none of these jails had plans to evacuate or protect incarcerated people from the flames or hazardous air quality. Similarly, last fall, we saw multiple cases of record-breaking hurricanes, and with multiple jails and prisons in the southeastern US and Appalachia that were not evacuated ahead of these hurricanes, and also suffered impacts from damage and impacted road networks afterwards. In response to these hazards, for the last 4 or 5 years, I've been working to map exposures to environmental hazards in prison landscapes. I do this using my background as a satellite remote sensing scientist. For example, in this top image here, this is an image of land surface temperature, which refers to the skin temperature of a building or a landscape, how hot something is to the touch. And this outline is a polygon of a prison in Massachusetts. And the differential between the temperature here, where the prison is, versus the surrounding forest is 34 degrees Fahrenheit. You can start to imagine how heat is really impacting people when you contextualize this within the fact that 44 states in the US currently do not have universal air conditioning. On the bottom is an example of me using remote sensing data to estimate how a prison in Texas was impacted by flood inundation after Hurricane Harvey. However, looking at this through exposure alone is not enough to really understand the full problem of toxic prisons or to identify solutions. Looking at things just from an exposure analysis may lead us to normative and seemingly straightforward solutions. For example, in the context of heat, the kind of obvious or straightforward solution might be to install air conditioning in prisons as a fix. And this is something that is actively being proposed by several scholars. However, narratives from formerly incarcerated people reveal the limitations of these types of solutions. And I'll read this quote for you aloud. They came up with this idea of respite areas inside of this prison. If you felt too hot, you could go to respite and it was supposed to be an air-conditioned room. But I don't know what people's fallacies are about the prison guards, but these people are like sadistic human beings. You could be on the verge of a heat stroke and they're not going to open your cell and escort you to respite. They make them extremely inaccessible. This perspective is not an isolated experience. I had numerous interviews share similar stories, and it shows how thinking about true climate resilience requires us to think beyond the seemingly straightforward solutions. As evidenced here, we cannot just think about resilience in terms of infrastructural resilience, whether or not a facility has air conditioning. While the building might have capabilities to withstand extreme heat, the resilience of the incarcerated population is modified and hampered by the severely reduced agency to moderate their individual level exposure. And this is not something requiring technical fixes. These are part of larger systemic issues that illustrate how our current criminal justice system is less about rehabilitation and more about punishment and neglect. Perspectives like these are why I prioritize community-engaged approaches and mixed methods research incorporating both quantitative and qualitative findings to tell a more complete story. To this end, I've partnered with the last 4 years with a coalition called the Campaign to Fight Toxic Prisons. They work to close toxic prisons, prevent new prisons from being built, and they also do disaster response during things like hurricanes and wildfires. And over the last few years, we've engaged with formerly incarcerated people, organizers, and family members who have someone currently incarcerated to inform how we go about mapping toxic prisons through the creation of this project that we launched last September called the Toxic Prisons Mapping Project, which you can find at toxicprisons.com. I won't show the full demo here, but here's just an image or video of the website. And overall, we have these 3 tabs: a hazards tab, which shows real-time hazards that carceral facilities are experiencing, such as wildfires or forecasted hurricanes; insights, which has time series information, as well as storytelling, which actually has both written and audio narratives of formerly incarcerated people talking about their experiences in their own words. Overall, what this work over the last few years has taught me is, and hopefully what I hope it illustrates to y'all, is that toxic prisons show us that truly achieving climate resilience will require reorienting our research and activism towards transformative solutions that address structural inequalities that currently limit our individual and collective resilience. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you participating with us today. All right, next we have Liliana.
So I'm going to talk about dynamics of zoonotic infectious diseases and resilience. So let's imagine a farm with green grass, with herds of happy cows that interact with humans and receive occasional visits of a badger or a white-tailed deer. Let's now imagine that these animals become sick with, let's say, tuberculosis, which is a disease that can infect any mammal. And the pathogen that causes the disease can also live in the environment. And the time that lives in the environment can go from days to months, depending on the climate. There is a huge interplay between the environment, the livestock, and wildlife and human. And where humans can become infected from livestock due to ingestion of contaminated milk, for example, or working practices like farmers, abattoir workers, veterinaries, or cohabitation. At the cattle-wildlife interface, they can get infected from each other through shared habitats or even supplemental feeding of wildlife that provokes aggregation of wild animals. And humans, and at the human-animal interface, meaning human-wildlife interface via hunting or trapping or taxidermy. What if the cattle-to-cattle transmission can be actually exacerbated by the large amount of cattle movements between farms? I would like to show an example of a cattle trade in the Republic of Ireland, where you can see movement of cattle from farm to farm and from farm to slaughter. Just pay attention to the number of days and also to the number of the arches, the red and the blue ones. This is farm to farm. And you can see that this is just like worse than fireworks in the New Year's Eve, right? This is just thousands and thousands of cattle movements that happen between farms every single day. You can stop now. And so now I also would like to call your attention for the topology and the density of cattle cattle movement networks from Tanzania that actually change from a season to season. And here is the example of a simulation of a epidemiological model that studies the critical transitions from a disease-free status to disease emergence. So the threshold of this system is when R, which is the effective reproductive number that represents the number of secondary infections from an average infected individual, becomes bigger than 1. So A, B, C represent the landscape of the system, where the ball represents the state of the system. And the system needs very little energy to recover and the ball actually represents the amount of energy that the system needs to recover after perturbation. So in A, R is very far from the threshold. So R is actually just 0.6, and the system needs very little energy to recover. In B, the state is already very close to the threshold. So the state of the system entered a critical slowing down where it becomes very challenged to recover. And in C, it is when it's already above the threshold, and then the state will enter into an endemic disease state, and it will be very, very difficult, if not impossible, to get out of it. So, we really need an integrated knowledge to action framework where we can incorporate early warning signals and also all of the information that we can get about these different components. We need these using the One Health approach, where we will be collecting indicators to monitor infectious diseases, but also to provide preventions of disease risk under different situations. We need to evaluate local interventions, like, for example, vaccination of wildlife or livestock, but also how these climate variables influence the survival of the pathogen in the environment that can exacerbate the infection from the environment to wildlife and livestock, and then go back to humans. So for that, we need this close integration to create what we call a climate resilient health system that provides decision supported tools. For that, we need all together. So we need a multidisciplinary team that involves stakeholders, policymakers, academic and governmental organizations. Thank you very much.
Alejandro.
Hi, my name is Alejandro Macias. Feel free to call me Alex. I'm a painter and draftsman and also assistant professor for the School of Art. I have to go and read these slides, otherwise I completely derail myself. Just to kind of briefly talk and expand on my practice, I often use myself as a vessel to speak on the complexity of my own identity as a Mexican American. I use human form as an accessible subject that responds to urgent socio-political concerns rooted to the borderlands. This is a particular painting of mine called Man on Fire, which can maybe summarizes most of the work that I do. My work provides me with a lens in which I see the world, myself, and my own assimilation into American society. Although I speak from a very through a specific cultural lens, my experience, ideas, and feelings don't solely belong to me, but a wider viewership. My art acts as a documentation and as well as protest. My work celebrates all those who came before me, and this particular painting was a direct response to the work of a pretty well-known Mexican-American sculptor named Luis Jimenez, who was working along the Southwest, and also I believe taught here for a few years. Man on Fire references the historical figure Cuauhtemoc, the Aztec ruler who was tortured with fire during the Spanish conquest of Mexico. Growing up in the Southwest borderlands, Luis Jimenez heard stories of Cuauhtemoc's bravery from his grandmother and thought of him as a mythic figure and kind of a Superman. Jimenez made the sculpture at a time of growing dissent against the Vietnam War, among many Chicanos. Man on Fire draws on the famous photographs of Thich Quang Duc, a Buddhist monk who set himself aflame in the protest of the US-backed South Vietnamese government. For Jimenez, the monk's act resonated with his own anti-war stance. Man on Fire thus references martyrdom and resistance spanning multiple continents, cultures, and centuries. These are two particular paintings of mine called Ascension 1 and 2. I also understand that I'm an extension of my grandparents' migration. I understand my privilege as a practicing artist, and I'm a product of my grandparents' and parents' sacrifices and their selfless acts. That would have been my sentence, by the way. My mentor, a migrant from Mexico City, provided me with my first academic opportunity. My career and platform have naturally amplified my empathy for those around me, and many of whom are my students. Last but not least, this is a painting called 5 Minutes of Solace, which is a kind of a multimedia approach, which embeds, a video into the painting. 5 Minutes of Solace is a two-dimensional self-portrait mounted over a 5-minute looped video on my first visit to Tumamoc Hill, an ecological site located in Tucson. And because of this work, it kind of spawned a new interest to kind of interview more people. So I hope to continue to expand myself as a documentarian and record oral histories outside of my own perception of the border. The result will be made to not only highlight oral histories and objective independent stories, but also provide a pathway to borderland transparency and counter the harmful rhetoric and stigma surrounding the border. Also, just a little cool fact, my painting was acquired by the UAMA, the UA Museum of Art, which I feel now is in direct dialogue with Luis Jimenez's. So that's really kind of a huge honor and privilege. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, is Oskar here? Yes, okay, we don't even need to take a stretch break. Thank you for getting over here so quickly. No, you're good. It was good that you went to class. Okay, all right, Oskar.
Hi there, my name is Oskar Anderson. I'm a student here at the University of Arizona, and I'm going to talk a little bit about ecological monitoring to build community. Oh, there's a clicker, awesome. So ecological monitoring, I'm sure almost everybody here knows what that is, but it's making observations about things in our environment to inform ongoing management and conservation or other types of management. For me, this has looked like I work as an intern with the Earth Grant program with Pima County's Conservation Lands and Resources Department. And so this has looked like looking a lot for species presence or absence for things like desert tortoise, Pima pineapple cactus. And it's also looked like monitoring conditions like this water level of this spring here in this picture. Now, regular observations are obviously important because if we have things like an endangered species like this Huachuca water umbel, we don't just want to check in on, we don't just want to have an outplant population to hold as a backup for if one of the populations in the wild goes away, but also we want to know how an outplant population does. So we have an outplant here that, you know, we just put it in about 4 months ago, monitoring about every 6 weeks. We see it kind of really shoot up and come back, and we can make these regular observations to check in on this community. And this is, you know, something that seems very intuitive, but I'm really glad that I've gotten to take part in a lot of this ecological monitoring with this group. Now, the one thing that I was surprised to learn as I started doing more monitoring work is that there's also people there. When I go out to check on these plants and work that I thought would be more solitary or quiet, I've had a lot of time to interact with both my mentors and community members. So in that outplant population at a county-run park, I'll often have bird watchers come up to me and first ask what the hell I'm doing, because I'm out there just measuring these little plants, but then tell me about kind of their own monitoring that they've been doing just by being there every day walking their dog. They'll tell me they saw an eastern phoebe that must have blown in, or they'll be taking pictures of the green herons that were there for a few weeks. And often I feel like these community volunteers or community members that I run into are some of the most passionate people about doing this regular check-in work and making observations about the environment around them. when I organized buffalo grass removal, I had this one volunteer who would show up almost 2 hours before my stated start time because he was excited to remove buffalo grass in his neighborhood and was just waiting for somebody to schedule something to give him the all clear. And I think I've had a lot of these interactions with people where I realize the more that the work shows up and people get involved with it, there's a lot more interest in my community to do ecological work, whether it be restoration or monitoring. And as someone who's more of a plant nerd, doing monitoring work has helped me get better at memorizing people's names. So memorizing a plant name, I have a sort of process that I'll go through, and I think I've heard similarly from my classmates and colleagues of, you know, you see the plant, you get excited about it. If you're working with it, you definitely want to go ahead and learn the name. So I'll say, oh, that's Pima pineapple cactus, that's Coryphantha robusta. And then crucial next step, ask people repeatedly every time I see it, hey, is that Pima pineapple cactus? Is that what we're looking for? Is that Coryphantha robusta spina? And eventually this makes me more excited to see the cactus or the bird or the other animal or plant that we're looking for. And I've started employing this to memorize people's names, and I think it's a good way to get to know the people around me during these monitoring work days. So if you met somebody like me, you could go, oh, what's your name? I say Oskar Anderson, or you can call me Joe Cool. And then you can check over and over about my name. Do people actually call you Joe Cool? No, I'm sorry, they don't. But eventually, if you keep doing this, and what I've been able to do is get a lot better acquainted with all these people that I go out working with, and I meet these people who I never would have met before, and I get excited to see them again and again when I go do this monitoring work. I hope I might run into one of the bird watchers I saw the other day. And so I think my main takeaway is that in regularly checking in the parts of our environment that we can sort of manage or we want to manage, we also get a better sense of checking in on our neighbors and the other people in our community. I think this helps build resilience by increasing our empathy for other people and by connecting us to potential collaborators for the future who are passionate about the same things as us but might approach them in different pathways. Thank you.
So much. Wonderful. All right, we're going to take another break for you to all have a chance to chat with each other, maybe reach out to someone new. Please return at 3:50, and we're going to hear about our amazing Santa Cruz River Soundscape project. All right, 3:50. Thank you. And if somebody could lean their head out the door and let everyone know we're starting up again. Crystal, can I forward? Okay. All right. So as you may know, for the last 2 years, through the generosity of the TRIF Weiss initiative, we have funded what we call an annual resilience theme. And this is a year-long set of activities that really focuses on resilience and in understanding resilience from a diverse set of perspectives. So I'm really excited today to hear from Sarah Fraker and Jackie Glazer, who were the PIs on this year's annual resilience theme, and it's only February, so this project is still continuing. So I'll turn it over to Sarah and Jackie.
Hi, everybody. We're just really grateful for this opportunity to pursue this project all year. And so you'll be hearing from Jackie in a moment. She's been co-leading the artistic planning for this project with me from the very beginning. So our project brings together a group of scientists, creatives, and nonprofits to explore the theme of water stewardship in our local Santa Cruz River watershed. And you heard earlier in the session, Dr. Cole gave a really beautiful introduction to the watershed. So that was really great to see and hear. Our team includes Larry Fisher. He's retired research professor from SNRE, and also Neha Gupta from AIR, Tona Adam scholar Giselle Ramon Sabaran, who you also heard from in the Making Arizona video, and also faculty from the School of Art, Creative Writing, and the School of Music. Our project team member Allison Deming is here today as well. We also want to just shout out to Ellen McMahon, who has just provided incredible mentorship to us and has been a real resource in the College of Fine Arts. I also want to mention that our community partners include the San Javier District of the Tohono O'odham Nation, Watershed Management Group, a wonderful nonprofit working here in Tucson, Cienega Watershed Partnership, and also music educators from across the region. You'll hear more about that in a minute, and the Tucson Symphony Orchestra. And I've been a member of the orchestra for 20 years, so it was very special to bring sort of two parts of my life together here from the university and also the orchestra, which is such an important part of our community as well. That should have been up as I was saying all of that. That's our intro slide there. So I'd like to describe our project today as a constellation of interconnected artistic efforts, and sort of our North Star. I consider the center of this constellation to be an original essay by Allison. It's called River Notes, and it took shape through time spent together with our project team and field experiences in places like La Cienegas National Conservation Area, Tanque Verde Creek, Cienega Creek, the Santa Cruz River, and the Hicdan, a restoration area at San Javier. And Jackie's going to take over from there.
So one of the creative outputs that we put together as part of this project was a new composition from a composer, Carolina Haridia, to create a piece for Reed Trio Electronics. And Reed Trio is composed of my instrument, the clarinet, Sarah's instrument, the oboe, and bassoon. And it's performed with a electronic track, which is made from digitally transformed local soundscapes. The soundscapes were recorded and provided to us by Luc Barbaro and Anne Soudril, who are scientists from the French National Center for Scientific Research, who have been working in the Las Ciénegas area. The piece is designed to be performed with an accompanying visual art media, which was created by artist Heather Bird Harris. Bird created the video using locally gathered plant inks and earth pigments. And you can see in this slide images from the plants and soils that we gathered and how Bird used them to create inks and pigments. You'll see some common plants from our area, such as mesquite bean, desert willow, chrysote, and prickly pear. And this next slide is going to be an excerpt from the piece. This is a performance that we gave in an Adobe hay barn in the Empire Ranch Foundation, and this is accompanied with Bird's video, which was projected on the wall of the barn. We have one before that.
There we go. So another one of our project activities involved a guest artist residency by Heather Bird Harris, who was the visual artist for that piece. And that residency back in November involved an artist talk, field visits, studio visits with students, a workshop given at the U of A School of Art and also at the Tohono O'odham Community College with the assistance of Martha Burgess. Some of you might know Martha. She's a wonderful ethnobotanist and TOCC instructor from Tucson. So these are just some photos from Bird's residency. So building our constellation here, another interconnected part was this series of multidisciplinary concerts that we just wrapped up. This concert was for 6 chamber musicians, 2 poets, video, and soundscape. And this featured a mashup of Allison's essay, River Notes, excerpted, with chamber performance of a piece by Prokofiev. Sounds like it makes no sense, but Allison, am I right? It makes sense, right? It really does. Also soundscape recordings from that CNRS ecoacoustic research that Jackie mentioned, and a wonderful recording of Giselle singing an O'odham song for Itoi. So a very important element of our desert soundscape. Also, we presented an audio piece from the Dear Body of Water project by Gretchen Ernster Henderson, and also Pine Chant, our 2021 collaboration with the U of A's Laboratory of Tree Ring Research. So I have just a few images here from those concerts. And this is the Adobe Hay Barn at Empire Ranch. Yes, we put on an electronic music concert in a hay barn with no electricity. So that is a testament to the fantastic music tech staff that we have here at U of A School of Music. This photo is from WMG and our wonderful undergraduate intern Nicandro, who's working with them all year as part of this project. So in an effort to merge science and storytelling, another piece of our work has involved the creation of a data story, if you will, that could be embedded into a musical composition. So with the help of our partners, we selected a couple different data sets. One is from WMG's Flow 365 program, which is a citizen science monitoring program. And then, that's, we selected a site at Wentworth Bosque on the Tanqueverde Creek. It's a really important restoration area that they're really active in right now. And then also, some of you might have seen this, this data before. This is a handout for the public from the Pima Association of Government, wet dry mapping data from Lower Cienega Creek in the Cienega Creek Natural Preserve. So our one of our project partners, Dr. Kay He, she's a professor of composition here at the U of A. She was tasked with creating a piece, which Jackie's going to tell you more about in just a sec, but I wanted to sort of connect the data to how she actually used it. And if you want to play the video, that would be great. So she is demonstrating here on her screen how she converted the raw data that we gave her into musical sound, which she then used as inspiration and raw material for her melodic composition. If we can get any more volume. And this is what the Cienega Creek sounds like. You and I are doing it together. There we go. And this leads me to talk about the next component of our project. And so this is a piece composed by Kay using these two sets of data, and it's for large ensemble. The piece is titled Sonoran Rivers, a celebration of desert water. And Kay really developed it around Allison's narrative. So the piece will be performed with a large ensemble with a narration, with narrators, and Allison is going to narrate many of those performances. The marquee performances are going to be given by the Tucson Symphony Orchestra, who will perform the piece for approximately 10,000 students in grades 3 through 6 at their Young People's Concerts. And they actually designing the whole concert around this piece and this idea of connecting to our local land and water. And then we have a consortium that we put together of 23 different ensembles in the area. Many community ensembles like the Tucson Pops Orchestra that performs for thousands in Reed Park. And then we have about 18 high school bands. So Kay actually simplified the piece for high school bands, and we workshopped it with our ensembles at the U of A, trying to make it kind of suitable for that age range. And so we are so excited to have this collaboration with so many music educators. This presents a really unique opportunity, not just for the thousands that we'll reach in audiences, but for the students specifically. It's very, very unique for a high school music student to actually perform a piece by a living composer, let alone a local composer that's written about the land that they live in. So we expect this is going to be really emotionally resonant. On the next slide, and I won't click yet because it might start playing. But this is a sample of Kay's piece. So you'll hear Allison reading part of her narrative, and this is just the audio sample. It's a MIDI file that Kay composed so that we can hear what it sounds like, but we don't actually have any live performances yet. The first one is coming up in the end of February, and we'll have this whole spring premiere season performances from February through May. So we'll play that now so you can get an idea of what it's going to sound like.
The Santa Cruz River is a desert dweller, a desert traveler, gathering drop by drop, seep by seep, runnel by runnel. Water drains out of mountains and collects into a stream bed. Stream bed by stream bed, water merges into a creek. Creek by creek, water becomes a river. Water reshapes itself, traveling through the land, snaking its way forward, shaping the terrain. Water sings as it travels, riffle, babble, gurgle, swoosh. Its music gentles the air until monsoon rain makes it roar, ripping out brush, snapping trees, sending them crashing downstream. Then the river stills to an almost imperceptible hum, and then it vanishes. The Santa Cruz.
Took that photo just on my iPhone in a random August day out at Las Ciénegas. So just a few more sort of little stars in our constellation that we're working on this year. We've got classroom content for the audiences that go to the TSO concerts. They produce a whole teacher's guide, and so we made 3 STEM lessons focused on the watershed and also these artistic connections, connections to poetry and music. And you see Neha Gupta there at the Santa Cruz in one of our videos that we're working on right now. We also are planning, Giselle is really planning a song and gourd rattle workshop with Autumn Youth at their Young People's Retreat this spring. We've got a collaboration going with the TOCC art course. And as I mentioned, we're also funding an undergraduate internship at WMG. So those are the things we're working on this year. And again, we're super grateful to AIR for the opportunity to explore all this work. Thank you.
And Sarah, where can we find those dates for those concerts? Right. So they should be on there pretty soon. Oh, they're up now. Okay. Okay. So on our AIR website is a link to the project website and the dates for those spring concerts. Thank you so much. What an amazing collection of activities. It's really inspiring. Okay. Now we're going to have a little bit of another chance to interact with each other. So if you can go back into Pigeonhole, and if you weren't involved in this activity previously, you can scan this QR code or type in pigeonhole.at, enter code ENR2. And once again, we have 2 questions. So the first one is the same as the first question and the last one. Have you changed your mind about, or have you thought of a new word to describe your impression of this event so far? That's all right. You're good, Crystal. So you can either enter anonymously or you can enter your name in the upper right-hand corner under profile. Surprised. There's been a lot of surprising things this afternoon, I think, and wonderful things and inspiring and integrating and consilience and action. I love these. And once again, if you weren't here for the first part of the afternoon, this is an app where we can export all of these responses into a PDF, which we will share with all of you. So you'll be able to reflect on this afternoon's networking activities. Okay, so just a couple more seconds to finish that first question. And then this next question relates back to the questions that I asked previously about the Big Idea Challenge. So the Big Idea Challenge is a new funding opportunity through the Office of Research, Innovation, and Impact for up to $250,000 over 2 years for research teams to come together around a topic, a big idea. And so for your primary area of interest that you responded to in round 1, and if you weren't here, let me know and I can tell you what those are. Please provide 3 or 4 words that describe your specific interests related to building or joining a team for a proposal. And what I'd like to do is then in the room get folks together just for 15 minutes or so to chat about your ideas. And as I said previously, to let your mind wander a little bit and just be expansive in your conversation. And maybe then next week you'll decide to have coffee together or get together on a Zoom call and talk about those ideas a little bit more. The deadline is not until the end of March. So you have time to get a team together around these big ideas. So let's see, what are we seeing so far? AI and sustainability solutions, impacts of heat on mental health, connecting U of A students to interdisciplinary research opportunities, storytelling and video production, One Health approach to controlling epidemics, and so forth. It would help if you don't mind adding your name. That would be awesome. And to do that, you go up into the upper right-hand corner of that app where it says profile and just enter your name and email address if you're comfortable. This is a way that we can then begin to connect people with similar interests. Thank you for adding your names. You should be able to go back in and do that even after you have entered your response. So what I'm going to try to do here is see if we can get folks together, as I said, just for 15 or 20 minutes to begin talking about a possible idea. So let's just start with, okay, Michael Mulcahy, storytelling and video production. Anybody else interested in that idea, that topic in general? Michael, can you raise your hand again? So if you are, you can kind of congregate around Michael. Yoast, digital twinning biosphere 2 ecosystems. Now that could be kind of related to video, maybe sort of kind of. Okay, so there's Yoast and there's Aaron. If you're interested in that idea. Okay, let's see, who else has a name? Nick, conservation, community, accessibility. Oops, it just moved. Change in the city. Nick, can you raise your hand? Okay, so if that's a topic that interests you, congregate around Nick. Liliana, One Health and climate change. So that could be pretty broad, right? That's the intersection of human, animal, wildlife health. Liliana, can you raise your hand again? Okay, I can keep going. Let's see, except I need it to refresh. Pairing arts and field sciences. Oh, that just moved again. Pairing arts and field sciences. Whoever wrote that, are they willing to raise their hand? Maybe not. Okay. Connecting U of A students to interdisciplinary research opportunities. I have a feeling I know who that is. Kevin Bonine right here. Okay, do we feel like we have enough to start to form some small groups? And if not, you can form a little group just by the people sitting around you. But let's try this, okay? Let's try to get some folks together. If you don't see anything yet that you're excited about, turn to a person, walk across the room, and let's just try this for 15 minutes. Then we'll come back together and I have a few announcements and then we're going to have food and live music. All right? Okay. Ready, go. Okay, I don't want to disrupt your conversation. Hopefully you've gotten to meet somebody new and maybe the start of a conversation that will lead to a collaboration, a proposal. I really encourage you to continue the conversation that you've started today. And if we can provide any support here in AIR, that's really what we're all about, is enabling and empowering this kind of inter and transdisciplinary research. So if you really want to have a group of people get together for lunch and you need a room and maybe a little bit of money to have lunch, just let me know and I'd be happy to support that. Okay, we are coming up to the end of our afternoon. And so this is not a surprise anymore because this is the third year in a row I've done this, but maybe for those of you who aren't familiar with this, this is a funding opportunity that we have provided for the last 2 years. This comes from our TRIF Weiss initiative, and it's to fund an interdisciplinary team to develop and execute a creative and inspiring year-long agenda of events and activities focused on a single resilience-related theme of the year. So you heard from Sarah and Jackie about their project over this current year. And so we will be funding a new project. It's $100,000 for a team of people to come together and produce this year-long set of events and activities. So the idea is that we'd like researchers from highly diverse disciplines to learn from each other about how they approach the same general topic related to resilience. So it's called the annual resilience theme. The first year it was soil health and drought resilience through soil health. And this year it's this Watershed Soundscape project. So what questions do they think about? What language do they use? And how might they co-develop some compelling new projects and proposals? Proposals for the theme of the year will include description of a variety of activities, which could include, but it's not limited to, research-focused seminars, workshops, or working groups, public talks that engage broad community audiences, educational field trips, or other student experiences, and film, art, or literary approaches to investigation of and communication on this chosen topic. So it can be any topic related to resilience. So this funding opportunity is available through RII's Arizona Cultivate website, which is listed up here. Well, no, actually that's the Weiss page. If you go to that page, or if you go to the AIR website, you should also see this. Look for the AIR Annual Resilience Theme Grant. The due date is April 30th, 2025, and it's up to $100,000 for this set of year-long activities. So Elise Gornish was the lead PI on the first year's award. If you want to talk to Elise about their project, or you can talk to Sarah and Jackie about their project. So we're excited to see what comes forward this year. I think this has been a really amazing way to bring folks together, to collaborate from a lot of different disciplines, and also to engage with our communities in some really interesting and novel ways. So with that, I would like to say a very warm and genuine thank you to all of our speakers, our panelists, our filmmakers, all of you who've been here to participate in this afternoon's activities, and our amazing AIR team. I get to work with such an incredible group of people. And for this particular event, I want to call out Crystal Soto, Elisa Beckwith, Shelley Litton, Anna Seiferle Valencia, Liz Pedersen, Olivia Meltner, Thomas Weiss, Aaron Tanaka, and Ray Granillo, who all have contributed. Thank you. Yes. And I am honored and privileged to work with this team and with all of the people in AIR. I love my job. I feel so grateful to be able to do this work. So now we have food set up outside in the courtyard. I think it's still a beautiful day out there, although I've been in here all afternoon. And live music by a duo that Shelley found for us, Kiru. It's a clarinet and guitar duo, and I'm thrilled. I've heard some of their recordings, and they're amazing. So I'm guessing that they are out there now, ready for us. Sky says yes. Thank you, thank you, thank you for being here today. I hope you've made some new connections. I know you've been inspired, and please stay in touch with each other and stay in touch with us. Thank you.